notice how the lake is going down little by little. And now you can basically walk across there with a little effort, dry shod. And that was probably not the case since, I don't know, let me say December. So at least 8 months ago. Good morning, everybody. Today we're a day filled with hope. A little low on battery this morning, so I might be a little shorter. A day filled with hope. Imagine over 2,500 years ago, the people are in exile. And the vision that Ezekiel, after all his pounding on them for infidelity, and reading the exile as a place, as a condition, a state of punishment for sin, he communicates this incredible vision of hope. The dry bones, this famous chapter 37 of Ezekiel. The bones, it's such a fantastic, in the sense of fantasy. Such a fantasy-filled message, communication. And he himself goes through the steps of fantasizing, just imagining. And for the normal, incredulous human being, it's pure fantasy, no reality. Fake news. But no, it's for real, because the people did come back. And that's the first meaning of this dry bones. It's a metaphor for the people being restored. And the interesting thing is that, let's say, the political restoration never really happened, because it's a sustaining of the people, or a tolerance of the people by other powers, and sometimes a lack of tolerance. So they, as a people, they couldn't have stood up, couldn't have sustained themselves, rebuilt themselves without the support of others. It would have been impossible. How could a conquered people in exile with a destroyed country come back on their own? But they were completely sponsored by the state. So the Persians brought them back, enabled them to go back, empowered them to go back. And then they're still under the Persians, and eventually under the Greeks when the Greeks beat the Persians, and eventually under the Romans when the Romans take over. And the story has continued really until today. The amount of sustaining from outside. But that's the whole political dimension. And we know that the scriptures are communicating God's love for humanity through the concreteness of a people that didn't exist before, that started with Abraham and Sarah. There was one baby, 2 babies, and sacrificed the child. So from there to grow. God is the author of life. That's the huge message, the learning message, that we're not the ones in charge. We're not the be all and end all. And yet God does it for us. And the fact that it did happen, that it's historical, Ezekiel's vision on that level got fulfilled. But then we have the resurrection, not just a political resurrection of a people, but a resurrection of the dead. And we see here then how this vision of Ezekiel is a cornerstone of unlocking the human mind's openness to God being able to accomplish something absolutely, for us, pure fantasy. To bring back the dead. And all our tears at the gravesides of our loved ones express the fatality of death and the longing for life, that death should not reign. How marvelous. We know it in our depth of our being. We want life to continue. And then we have this incredible psalm. They cried to the Lord in their distress. From their straits he rescued them, and he led them by a direct way to reach an inhabited city. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his mercy and the wondrous deeds to people. Because he satisfied the longing soul and filled the hungry soul with good things. So there we have longing and filling and good things. But it's the soul. It's not just the body. And already here in the psalm, then we can see how that whole education is happening, even through the exile process, was the deepening of the spirituality of the people. That this life is not exhausted in pure material realities. Behind every gift is a giver, and behind the sunrise is a giver. And behind every material reality is a giver of love. And to discover this is the whole purpose of Scripture, the whole purpose of the way of faith. In all the limitedness of our lives. And in this resurrection, obviously we know how this eventually emerges as a resurrection of the body in the time of the Hellenic period, actually. And the Maccabees already expressed that faith. And then the Pharisees and Sadducees are fighting over it. The Sadducees scoff at it. And the Pharisees says, no, we believe in the resurrection of the dead. And that's a virulent debate and discussion and disagreement between Pharisees and Sadducees 2,000 years ago. And then for us who are Christians, we have assimilated to a degree, and much more to go, the impact of the resurrection of Jesus. The very physical resurrections bring people back to life on this earth that Jesus did. The miracles were just the tip of the iceberg, because the spiritual resurrection that he himself then had is a whole different measure. It's the total conquering of death, because Lazarus died again, and the son of the widow in Nain died again. He's not alive, he's not around there today, you know. And the daughter of Jairus died again. But the definitive resurrection, that's our hope. And as much as the people might have doubted Ezekiel when he announced the resurrection of the people as such, as a political entity coming back, as much as that would have been a challenge for them, for their faith and their trust, that's in a certain sense also the prophetic mission of the Christians, to carry that faith and that trust and that conviction, not just as a theory, but knowing that that's what's going to happen, that we are called to the fullness of resurrection. And as proof of that, in a certain sense, is the life of love, of unconditional love. Because once we have the total resurrection of the human being, then unconditional love becomes capable from both sides of the love equation, from the heart that wants to give itself completely, and for the meaningfulness of loving everybody, including our enemies, including the most decrepit human being, the most miserable wretch, physically, morally, politically, socially, economically. I can love this person because this person is also destined to rise. And the difference between me and the most miserable person in any order is nothing compared to the glory we will each share in eternal glory. And to be able to be an Ezekiel-type person in the midst of the materialism of the time, of the disbelief of the time, of militant atheism of the time, of the scoffing of the time, that's our great vocation, to be able to hold and announce by lifestyle, a lifestyle announcement, that the resurrection is truly our future, the future of humanity, and that there's a path to resurrection. And that path, people, our readings today are filled with the extraordinary message of hope that our broken world needs. See you later, alligators. God bless you. People destined for resurrection. See you later, alligators, at the latest in heaven.